Hi everybody, this is Chris Petri. Welcome again. We're doing another great episode here on my channel. We're going to actually just work on basics of watercolor washes and colors and brushwork. This is the kind of thing that I would practice myself when I first started watercolor a lot because one, it's fun. You don't have to worry about anything. You just get in there, you start doing some swatches. We could just start one right here. So we're just going to start a swatch. We're going to make basically a square. And you do it freehand. You don't have to worry about it. When you first start out, your square might be a little bit, on an angle or whatever, but the more you practice, the better you get at freehand, drawing and contour drawing. So you just try to do your best to do a square or a rectangle. And that's basically our starting point for our drawing. So right away doing this type of exercise, one, it's fantastic. We get a little practice on our drawing. And then we're going to move right over to a brush, and I'm going to just get a round travel brush, and these are the Charles Reed travel brushes, and these are great. They come in a 3-pack. They're fantastic. You can once the brush dries, you can just put the cap on like this. I always bring these with me whenever I go on vacation to do sketches and sketchbook work out, on vacation, or if I just go maybe for a weekend trip or something like that, or basically vacation, anything. I bring these with me. They're really handy. They protect your brush. So if you were to bring your brush out and put it in a bag or something, a lot of times the brush hairs get destroyed and all bent and everything. So this protects your brushes when you can throw these in your pocket. You can throw them in a bag, a duffel bag, a suitcase, anything like that, pocketbook, whatever you have, you can throw these in. Once you close it, you can throw it, and it's got a little hole in the top which lets air in there, but you let this dry first, the brush hairs dry for as long as you can, and then you put it into the case. And then the case acts as a handle. Once you open it up, you push it on, and it's tight, and then you have your brush with your handle, and you're ready to go. So I like to use these. These are great. I have 2 or 3 sets of these. I like to buy a little bit extra when I have enough money saved, or if I have a birthday or Christmas time, I ask for a gift like this, and then my friends or my family, they can buy these on Amazon. You can get these on Amazon online. They're in art stores too as well. So we're going to do our first swatch here. Let's take a cool color. I like orange. Let's do an orange. So I'm just going to dip my brush into the orange, and then I just basically rest my hand on the paper. And then there's all kinds of variations of brush strokes you can use. So we'll start off with what I call a Z stroke. Basically you start on this end here, you go across like this, you stop short of the edge of this pencil line there, and then you come down like this, then you stop short again, and then you spin around your hand like this. So it's kind of a technical type of brush stroke. It kind of really helps you to practice swinging your brush around to get into different positionings to help you paint better. So the Z stroke is a really great stroke to practice. So you have the first part of the Z stroke is the Z. Then you go back in and you load up your brush with a little more paint, and then you can actually just do an upstroke like this on the side, like that. And then your last brush stroke, you can do a parallel brush stroke this way, and then maybe up a little bit. Then get really careful, spin your brush around, and then get your point nice and pointy on your brush. Or you can also do that in your palette. You can take your palette and then spin your brush on your palette to get a good point, and then you can finish up your last bit like this, with your hand always resting on the paper when you're doing these brush strokes as much as possible. Try to keep your hand stable when you're doing these exercises. I think it's really important to do that. And then you can kind of tidy up your rectangle if you want, a little bit like that, just to get it good so it's pretty much right with the pencil lines, So that's a really great practice technique to use and method. And then you can always just write on top or below. So we're just going to say that's a Z stroke. And then you can even, if you wanted to, you can make the actual, you could maybe come over here and say, okay, how did I make that Z stroke? Or how did Chris show me how to do the Z stroke here? You could do very simply, you can go like this, and then make a series of smaller squares like this. Maybe make like 4 or 5 of them. Let's make 4 to start with. I think 4 should be good. And we'll go this way. We'll make them smaller. Let's start off with 3. So we see we have 3 here. And I hope you can see that. Let me use a darker pencil line maybe, so we can kind of see these a little better. So I'm making smaller squares, or rectangles work too. And we're going to kind of do the Z-stroke step by step. So I know I'm going to need more than this here. So let's do 4. At least 4. And then let's get our orange. And let's do this. This is the first portion of the... Get some more paint out on the palette here. And I'm not using too much water, you can see, but you can make these with a lot of water. But you can see how using a little thicker paint is going to help us to see here on the video. That's why I'm using a little thicker paint. So that's the first part of the Z-stroke this way. Then we're going to go this way. That's the second part. And then the third part is, and then we'll do the full like this. Okay, we're going to need one more, I think. So we'll do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that should be good. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll get some more orange, cadmium orange, one of my favorite colors. And we'll do this. 1, 2, 3. And then there. And then the final one is here. And then there. So what we'll do is we'll let this dry. I'll take a quick break and we'll let this dry. I can use the blow dryer and blow dry this off quick. And then we'll draw over the top of these step-by-step diagrams of the Z-stroke. So we can put some pencil lines on there to kind of show the succession of each stroke and how it leads to the next. And then you finally get to your completed swatch here, color swatch, like this one here that we did. So this is a great thing, and this is the really awesome thing about this is once you do this and you put it on a piece of nice watercolor paper and you write all this out and kind of do this diagram, I'm hoping you're really going to do this because it's really going to be great. You can put this in a folder and then refer back to it when you say, oh, I want to practice some brush strokes. A couple months from now you might say, oh, I want to practice that brush stroke again, a brush stroke video Chris did. And then you can just grab your paper out of your folder that you keep with you nearby, your art supplies, or maybe in a drawer in your house somewhere. You might have like a little station you set up where you put all your art stuff. That's really helpful to keep all your art supplies and gear all in one spot all the time if you can. This way you don't kind of have stuff here, there, and everywhere. And then when you go to paint, you're taking like a half an hour to find everything. Try to keep everything in one spot. Maybe get a big plastic bin, put all your stuff in that. If you don't have a real spot of your own in your house or your home or your apartment, wherever you live, if your space is a little tight and you really can't find the room to have a little workstation or a little table to work on all the time, you can always put everything in a plastic bin with a plastic tub. Put the lid on it when you're done painting for your session. Put it and stow it someplace, and when you're ready to paint the next time, maybe a week later on the weekend, you grab your tub, and you bring it out, and then you have all your stuff right in one spot. You know where everything is. Nothing's missing. You don't have to go looking for anything. I know some of you are really organized, and you probably already have this stuff all figured out, but some of you that are just starting out, perhaps, and if you're new here, and this is your first time, thanks so much for coming by. You'll have a lot of fun here on our channel. We're always doing cool stuff like this. Little practice, exercises, along with our regular videos where we're doing painting. So you're going to get the practice, let's say the scales if you're a musician. You got to practice your scales first and then, warm up with those. Then you get in and you do your song. So this is kind of like the same idea. If you're a sports athlete, you're going to practice a little bit before you start the game. You're going to throw the ball around. You're going to do your stretches, your exercises, get warmed up, and then you go and you do your painting. Same idea as this. You warm up first with all these type of things. You keep doing these every once in a while, and then that leads you up to better paintings because you're going to have better mastery over handling your brush, putting in nice washes like this, controlling your brush, having a really good handle on this stuff is really going to be great for you. So I know you're going to practice this. And so, all right, actually by the time I'm done talking here, this is already pretty dry. So let's do it this way. Okay, so the Z-stroke is this way. And then we could go right over the top like that. And then over here we'll do it this way. And then here we'll put an X there. And then an X over here. And there you have it. That's the finished swatch, like this over here. Brush stroke this way, this way, this way, there, and then you have it. And that's the complete Z-stroke. And actually, I will take a break now. I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and I'll be right back, and we'll do a second practice exercise. I know you're going to really enjoy these. These are fun. No stress. This is the fun part of watercolor. Sometimes it's a little stressful doing a finished painting, you know. I get the same way, you know, when I'm starting to do like a finished painting or something, and I get a little bit like, you know, shaky and like, oh my God, I hope this goes good, or, you know, whatever I'm thinking in my mind is like, I feel like I can do it, but there's always that little bit of hesitation I think all of us watercolor artists have. When you go in to do a really nice finished painting, let's say, you're always going to have that little thing in the back of your mind, is this going to go well? And you know what I'm saying, because as watercolor artists, watercolor's not easy. You know, you can have a lot of paintings go wrong in the beginning. So if you have a lot of, you know, if you're having issues once in a while, or even a lot, don't worry about it. When you're first starting out in watercolor, it takes a good amount of time. You got to keep working at it. Don't get frustrated. You get a lousy painting, turn the paper over on the other side and start a new painting. That's all you have to do. But always finish out your painting. I always say that to everybody. Finish out your painting, no matter how bad it might look in the beginning, and you say, oh, it's never going to turn out good. Just keep working through the process and get to the end of it, and then step back and look at it and go, oh, yeah, it doesn't look all that bad, actually. So I know you're going to sort of go through all these milestones as you go as a watercolor artist. One of them is, you know, like I said, you know, when you have issues, you just finish your painting out and then you start another one. And you don't worry about it, because in the beginning, especially if you're just starting out for the first year or two, you know, it's not going to be easy. You know, you have your hurdles you have to get over. But this is part of getting over those hurdles, being aware of brush strokes, handling the brush, being able to get those swatches in nicely with not too much of a problem, handling that brush point to get your little areas filled in there. And I still have to work on it myself. I need to sometimes practice to get back into my brush work. Sometimes I get rusty on it too. All right, we'll do another swatch here, a different style swatch next. And I hope you'll stick with us here and keep practicing these, and we'll have a fun time together. So let me just take a quick break and I'll be right back. All right, we're getting back into our color swatches here, brush work, a little bit of drawing skills here, doing some squares with our pencil. I'm using a little bit of a darker lead now. I'm going to grab my 6B, and let's do a second one. So we're going to do the same idea. Let's do, again, we'll do a square or a rectangle, like that. And let's start out with that. And we might do some additional squares to the right. Depends on what kind of stroke we're going to do. I think we will. Yeah, actually, we're going to actually do somewhat of what we just did. So let's go with at least the same amount of squares. So I'm just doing squares going across the page. Just like this up here, I want to get the And if we have to add a few more, we can do that, but at least we'll put out 5 extra smaller ones here. We're going to do an 8-stroke now. So I'm going to get some more color, and another favorite color is green, so let me use some green. Let's see what we have here. Okay, that's a chromium of oxide. So what we're going to do now is, with our green, we're going to mix a couple different greens. We're going to go with sap green up here. So now we're going to get into a little bit of color mixing. And you're always safe if you mix colors. If you want to start to branch out and say, hey, I want to mix more variety of colors in my watercolors, and you're kind of new to watercolors, what you can do is, which is very helpful, is start out, maybe, this is just an idea, you're the artist, you have to kind of check into what I'm saying, or, kind of think about it when I'm doing something like this and ask yourself, does this make sense? So I'm going to take sap green, chromium of oxide over here on the left. That's a very dull green, opaque, very opaque. And then I'm going to rinse off my brush, and I have a paper towel here to dry off some of the water. And then I'm going to go in and maybe do some olive green. Olive green's a little more warmer. It's got a little more gold or yellow in it than these two greens, which are a little cooler, more toward the blue side. But you can kind of see how I have 3 different greens on here. And I think that is kind of, so we have the sap green, chromium of oxide over here, and then we have some olive green here. So we have a little bit of a mixture of greens. And I think that looks really good. Let's try to take these, and we'll do this swatch here, our H stroke, and we'll mix all these 3 greens together as we go. And I think it'll make a more interesting green wash other than just going in with one green. So again, it always is helpful if you want to start branching out and mixing more colors. You're very safe if you stick with, let's say, just one color family, so green. If you stick with all greens, you'll get a nice variety of greens here with these 3 greens. Again, sap green, chromium of oxide, and olive green. You mix all these 3 together, though, sort of like separately in the palette, you'll notice that it will look a little more interesting on your paper. So we're going to do the H stroke. So let's do the first stroke for the H stroke, 1 downstroke like this. Then we'll pick up some more in mixture like this, and we'll do 1 up this way. So we're going to go 1 down, 1 up like that. And we're going to get a little more paint. Again, mix all 3 of those together. Just pick them up. You don't have to really mix them. Just pick them up a little bit here and there. And then the middle one is like this. So now we have 1 down, 1 upwards brush stroke. And notice I'm not going right to the edge where the pencil line is. I'm trying to stop short of the pencil line. And I have to move quick here too. I'm trying to mention that as I go. I want to try to move quick so I can get everything mixed. The goal is to do it really quick once you get used to the pattern. You do this really fast, you'll get it all in on all in at one time pretty much quickly, and it'll look very much like a really nice wash, everything all blending together. Mine's are already starting to dry because I'm talking and I'm explaining what I'm doing, but if I do another one down here below, you'll see what I'm saying. So you can kind of see if I'm going slow here, and that's the thing with brushwork, you have to try to get your speed up quickly, or you have to try to work on getting quicker with your brush strokes and your brushwork, because when you stop and hesitate and you have to think about it, your watercolor washes start to dry, and then you get those funny looking dry spots, which is happening right now. So I'm kind of explaining, and you'll kind of see as we go. So all right, I got my downstroke, upstroke, across, that's the H. Then we pick up more paint, and we'll do 1 across the top here, like that. And we'll pick up a little more paint again. Spin around this way, make sure this is dry, don't lean into the wet paint. If that's wet, you gotta blow dry it or let it dry. Then you swing around your brush, take your arm and swing your arm all the way around, and then go like this, like that. Now the final thing would just be to get some more paint, roll your brush around with your hand, kind of spin your brush back and forth like this, so that the point, you can kind of see the points. You can twirl your brush and you get that point going. And then you can go in and just do your final brush touch-ups along the edges of your border where your pencil line is. And there you go. Perfect. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. And it didn't dry too much on us. It kind of gave us some time. Okay, so that's another swatch using the H stroke. Let's rinse off our brush. I'm using plenty of fresh, clean water, and I'm actually going to just empty my water now and add more fresh, clean, crystal clear water. And then we're back to painting, but first let's use our pencil line here and let's call this the H stroke. Alright, so let's go here and then start doing the process that we did. So the first one was on the left side. We did an upstroke this way, and you can use a small brush. I'm going to stick with this one, but you can use a small brush when you do these smaller swatches here. That might be very helpful, actually. Let's do that. Let's get a smaller brush. So I'm going to look here, see what I have. Let me look around. And then I have my number 6 Charles Reed travel brush here. And I'll pick up those colors again. I think I have enough colors there. Still mixing pretty well, looking good. Maybe we'll get a little more out there. Sap green, chromium of oxide over here, and some olive green there. Kind of mix them all a little bit, not too much. So we did the downstroke. Now we're going to do this downstroke here, so we're kind of building the, and then this is the upstroke here, like so, like that. And then we're going to do the same thing. So I spin my hand around like this as if I'm writing, if I'm doing some script writing or if I'm printing, just as if you're writing or something, if you're writing in a diary or you're writing a letter or doing some bills and writing out some checks or whatever it is, you're holding your brush the same way. Your hand's resting on the paper and you're just pushing your brush down on the paper and then just sliding it down and stopping a little short of the pencil line. And then then you're taking your brush and spinning it around this way, hand resting on the paper the same way. You're just spinning your brush around the opposite direction and doing an upstroke like this. That's the upstroke, like this. Then we'll get some more paint, and we're going to do a parallel stroke. You can either do it this way, or you can even do it this way too. So that's downstroke, upstroke, parallel stroke to the right. Then we do, and then we're going to do the same thing. Downstroke this way as if you're writing on a piece of paper, script or print. Then here you spin your brush around, hand resting on the paper, your palm of your hand's on the paper, and then you're going up this way. And then here you can just take your brush and you're having it in this direction, hand resting on paper firmly. You have your stable hand always resting on the paper when you're painting, and then you go this way. Then you have your H, and then the next one is going to be like this, like this, like this, and then that's the next one. And then we have one more, actually two more, but we're just going to a little more paint. You can see there's not much water there. I'm using mostly paint and just a little water. So now we're going to do this downstroke, upstroke, side stroke, one up top. Now we're doing the one on the bottom, like that. And then we just roll our brush around on the palette to get that point on our brush. If you don't have a really good point on your brush, no problem. Get it as good as you can by rolling it on the paper on the palette, and then you get your fill in the rest of the square or rectangle. You could do either square or rectangle works for this. And that's the finished swatch. So now we're going to rinse off our brush. I'll set that to the side. I'll get my pencil and we'll just do the pencil lines, the arrows. So this one was an upstroke. This one was a downstroke there. This one was that way. And then this one was this way. And then you could, when these dry, put you could put an X there, but this will give you pretty much your. Actually, we didn't do this. We actually just went to the right over here to fill in these. So once these dry, you could put an X there, just kind of like this. You could put another X in here if you want. If you might use some white paint, maybe we'll do that. Let's use a little bit of white paint, and it'll kind of just give us an idea of a little bit too wet. I should have let that dry, but you get the idea. That's watercolor. It doesn't always do what you want it to do, and you just have to work with it, basically. All right, so 2 swatches, the Z stroke, the H stroke. These are brushwork exercises, painting exercises that are going to help your brushwork tremendously. If you practice these a lot, then you're going to be tremendously at an advantage. The goal of this would be to have your brushwork almost like on autopilot, so you're not thinking about it at all. So once you learn these exercises and you do them all the time, eventually you don't have to do them anymore. It'll be like you won't even have to think about it. You'll just be focusing on the colors you're mixing and focusing on your painting and your washes on your painting, what's drying, where you can work next on your painting. You'll be thinking about critical things that are going on your watercolor painting, and you won't be worrying about, oh my God, I'm having a hard time painting in that spot over there or over here or over there, and my brush stroke just went off the lines or something like that. So does that make sense? It really is like kind of crucial to learn these type of things if you want to just have a lot easier of a time painting. So enough said with that. Let's continue on. Let's do some more. But I think we need a new sheet of paper here, so I'm going to take this one and flip it over, and we'll do some more. We'll do 2 more exercises. And I hope you're enjoying these. I'm enjoying this a lot too myself. It's real fun, and there's no stress pretty much with this. Okay? All right, so I'll be right back again. I'll take another break, and we'll get started on another few exercises. All right. We're getting back into it here, everybody. Thanks for coming by and sticking with us on this video. And brushwork is really fun to practice. Swatches, colors, mixing, but really the brushwork is the key. We're going to use, this is a brush I've had for maybe 10 or more years, probably 15 years I had this. I had this brush when I first started. I bought this at the local art store, and it's a number 12 Pearl. It's a pure red sable brush. It's got some nice spring to it. And you're going to see how this kind of a spring to a brush can be really helpful. I'm not sure if all my brushes that I have over here on the left will spring as good as this. They probably all would, but this is an old favorite of mine. I have this brush. I don't know. We all have those like favorite brushes you've had forever, and you like to kind of just pick them up once in a while and use them. And I remember I used to practice years ago doing like swirling techniques like this. So let's try that. These are a little more technical, a little more difficult, but you'll get the hang of it. You just have to practice it. That's all it is. So let's clean up the palette a little bit. So I usually get my spritzer bottle and I just spritz on the palette like that. Add a little more spritz to the paints. If they're drying out a little bit, I add some spritz to that. And I just take my paper towel and just tidy up the palette a little bit. We're going to work with some new colors, so I'm going to lift these up like that. And let's draw a few circles. So I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side, and I'll draw like a decent circle here. You can use stencils if you want. It's best if you can practice. Just try drawing circles, maybe on a piece of printer paper first. I always mention I like to practice on printer paper first to sketch things out. I'm looking for some printer paper. Well, hold on a sec. I'm going to go across the room here. Okay. So I just want to cross the studio here. So if you have your printer paper here, before you do your final exercise on your watercolor paper, you can maybe just start out and do some circles, practice some circles on some printer paper just to kind of get used to it. Maybe, I guess I use the basic technique I was saying before, keeping the hand resting on the paper. And then I'm just starting out like I'm writing, like if I'm just writing my name, I just keep the pencil on the paper like that and just kind of slide my hand around a little bit if I have to get the circle. Smaller circles are a little bit easier. You don't have to really slide your hand any to do a smaller circle. You don't have to slide your hand on the paper, but if you do, and I always tape my paper down onto the working surface, so if I have a board here, a working board with some paper on top, some construction paper, so that it's a nice clean look to it, and then I have my watercolor paper on top of that taped down. But I always tape down whatever I'm working on, whether it's printer paper or watercolor paper. I always have it taped down at least in like three spots. 1, 2, 3, or usually all 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I'm doing a painting, I'll probably tape the whole perimeter of my paper. But this is just printer paper, and I'm just kind of making a quick note that you can practice some circles on your paper, printer paper. You get them going, you have some fun, you do some bit larger ones like that. They're not perfect, but, and then if you have to, or if you want to, there's stencils out there you can purchase. If you want to make them just perfect, you can do that too. And once in a while when you do a painting, you might want to have a stencil. Let me see if I have a stencil. Okay, so I found a stencil here in the drawers, and these are good. Sometimes you might need to do a couple, I don't know, maybe someone hires you to do a painting for them and they want a certain look to it, and they give you some subject matter to do for your, maybe a painting they need done for a special occasion or something customized, and sometimes you might need to use a stencil, and they make them all different sizes. These tend to be toward the smaller size, but you can use something like this. And as well, you can use they have the protractors, which are, one side has a needle and the other side you can clip a pencil into it like this. So you can clip a pencil in this side like that. And this has a point, and this is attached with an adjustment screw, and then you could just set this down, and you can open it up wider or make it small according to how big you want the circle, and then you just take it and you spin it around. I have to get one. I had one. I think I don't know where it is right now, but I have to get another one of these because I think I needed one the other week or something, and I didn't have it. But I have to get another one of these. But these are great too. So you can use this to draw like actually a perfect circle. You just you set your needle point down onto the paper for the center of the circle, and then you set your pencil into the instrument, and then you can draw a perfect circle like that when you spin your instrument around. So you can use a protractor, you can use stencils, or you can do it freehand. Sometimes you might need some stencils or a protractor. So we just started our first swatch there, circle, and we're going to try to do some swirling techniques here. So let's go in with some French ultramarine blue, and let's add some burnt umber. So let's kind of mix a nice dark like that. I don't overmix. I like to leave the two colors like that, so they're not really homogenized too much, but just mixed a little tiny bit. And then let's see how we can do this, if we can swirl. So the swirling technique is basically you can just set your brush down, rest your hand on the paper, set your brush down, and then what you have to do is you have to kind of take the brush and carefully try to trace around while you're turning the brush in a clockwise fashion like this, like that. And that's pretty much how to do it. It's not perfect, and I haven't practiced this in a while. That's why I need to practice these, so probably good that I'm practicing them right now. Let's try another one. And again, I'll do another circle. I'll rinse off the brush. Maybe we'll do another color combination. We'll go right next to this one's burnt sienna and maybe burnt sienna and raw umber. All right, and I'm going to touch down my brush here like that. And then I'm going to kind of get the brush more straight up like this. You can kind of see how I'm bending the brush up this way. And then now the thing is, I'm trying to move the brush to the left and actually let's go clockwise. Clockwise is easier. Clockwise. Now while I'm moving the brush, I'm also spinning it with my hand like this, like that. And my hand is still resting on the paper the whole time. Then you can always go back in. You can grab a tissue, dry off the brush a little bit, and then take this here, dry the brush off pretty good with a tissue once you rinse it. Get some paint, twirl your brush, and then you can get right to the edge real nice like that. And do the same thing here and up here, so you can get right to the edge if you want to get, you don't have to be perfect about it, but that looks pretty good. Like that. Okay. Let's do another color combination. Let's go with red, alizarin crimson. And this, I need to add more alizarin crimson to my palette. I like to have really fresh, soft paint in there. This is pretty good. It's all right. It'll work for this, but it should be a little softer than this. I'm having to kind of struggle to get the straight paint out on the palette, but that's not too bad. So let's do some alizarin crimson and cadmium red. So we're using 2 reds. Maybe we'll use one more red. Let's use the rose madder too as well. So there we have 3 reds. Again, we're sticking with our color mixtures, but staying in the same hue. Alizarin crimson, rose madder, cadmium red, all reds. And let's go in and let's do maybe something a little larger. See if we can, let's go in and we'll do the same thing. We're going to go clockwise. So maybe we start at like here about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock area on the, if it's a clock or a watch, and then we just start spinning our brush around. And since this is a larger circle, I'm sort of lifting up a little more. I think I'm sort of not with my hand resting on the paper now. I'm sort of higher up because it's kind of a larger, I'll use my pinky. So I'll use my pinky, rest my pinky on the paper, and see if I can do it that way. And then just try to spin the brush all the way around, 360s, like that. And then pick up some more paint, twirl the paint to get a good point on the brushes if you can. This brush is a little weary. It doesn't have a good point, but it's still enough that we can fill in the last bit of space along our pencil drawing. And there we have it. Okay, so we did 3. Let's do some more. And let's use a smaller brush now. Maybe I'll use my Raphael, number 6. So I have another brush. I'm going to empty my water. We've mixed a couple different colors here. Let's get some fresh water in there. My water bucket was getting really muddy looking with colors, so let's get a little more fresh, clean, crystal clear water, and then we're going to go in. Let's do some yellow. Here we have cadmium yellow. Let's clean up the palette a little bit. Paper towel, then I dampen the paper towel with a little bit of water. And I just try to lift up all that paint. Try not to, I try to conserve on paint too, but no sense making a lot of muddy looking colors. And let's go with, this is not, let's do another, let's do a couple smaller ones. Like that. So we'll do some variety. Let's again mix different, same hues. Cadmium lemon yellow. That's very lemony yellow. Rinse off the brush. Dry it off on a paper towel a little bit. Pick up some cadmium yellow, which is more of a warmer, orangey kind of yellow over here. And then let's use some, all the same hue, pretty much in the yellow and golds, and this is our yellow ochre. So now we can take these and kind of just do that, mix them up a touch, and let's go in and do this. Start at around 9-10, and then spin the brush around, and as you're going around, try to also spin the brush itself, twirl it like that, and there we go. We pick up a little more paint, and we can just, and there we have it. Okay, let's do a few more now. Let's see if I can. Again, I'll dampen the. And let's do some cerulean blue. Let's do cerulean blue. We'll start up here. Cerulean blue, cobalt blue. Rinse off the brush a little, dry it off on a paper towel, just so we're not flooding too much water in our palette, and also we're not trying to mix too many colors all together. And so now we have a mixture of 3 different blues: cerulean blue, cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue. And we'll try these, and we'll take these and kind of just pick up a little bit of all of them, and we'll do this. Again, we'll start here now. You can kind of see this is a tighter area, so it's a little more difficult, but I'm going to try to do it. I think I'm going to lift up and take my hand off the paper and just do it from holding the brush up above. So you can kind of see if I've taken my hand and lifted it up off the paper. It's a little easier. Maybe I can use my pinky. That might be better yet. Use my pinky and then rest my pinky on the paper. See if I can do it that way. And that works a little better, and I spin it around that way. So yeah, that does work a little better. I use my pinky as a stabilizer on the paper versus holding it down like this. If you're doing a larger circle or larger area like this, you could leave your hand resting on the paper. It would be okay. But once you get to these smaller spheres or circles, it might be a little tougher to do it that way. And let's try another one. Let's try purple, and then blue, French ultramarine blue and purple. And then I'm just going to keep my hand resting on the paper and just spin the brush around like this, like that. And then I get a brush goes back into the paint, and I twirl the brush around to get a nice point like that. And just go around like this and touch up the outer perimeter. And let's see, we have greens, reds, orange, we did green, we did pretty much all of our colors. We'll do some black. We're going to use some, let's see if we have Payne's gray and ivory black. And again, I need more paint in there, so you want to have fresh paint in there squeezed in when you start your painting. When you're working with your paintings, even swatches, if you're doing things like this, you always try to have fresh squeezed paint in here. You see how I'm kind of struggling to, and this is not good for the brush either, trying to dig in and swish around to try to get some color. I don't advise that. That's why but I want to show it here so that you can kind of see what not to do. So a lot of times what not to do is really important to kind of see. And then I'm going to do the same thing clockwise. Spin my brush around if I can. Maybe I'll use my pinky, hold the brush straight up. See if I can spin it around like that. Good. Go back in, we get some swirl the brush, or spin the brush on the palette to get a point as best you can, however pointy your brushes can be. And we go there like this and like this. Alright, so that's the twirling method. I hope you really enjoy this. We're going to do one more. We're going to take the rest of this paper and fill it in with some more interesting brush strokes, but more simple ones, just to finish out. We did a lot of hard work so far, and this has been the toughest of them all. This takes a lot of time. You can practice with you could have your brush with you anytime. You can bring maybe like a brush you don't use all that much. You can bring it with you and keep it with you, and then once in a while, if you're bored, you can take it out and just practice spinning it around like so. On your shirt or your pants with no paint, no water. You could just have a brush with you, a dry brush, and you take your dry brush and you practice spinning around. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second too as well, but I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register, or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. And doing the exercises and trying to spin around 360 with your brush like that. So if you can do that, you could try the 3 different ways we did it. Hand resting on the paper, try to get that 360 spun around. Then you could try it with your pinky stabilizing your hand up above, and you hold your brush up a little higher and you try to do that spin around. And then of course you can even try it without anything, just with holding your brush straight up in the air without doing any stabilizing or anything. Hold the brush higher up like this and just see if you can let the brush sit on the paper and spin it around like that. That might be the easiest way of all, actually. Okay, so let me take another break. Let me take another quick break. I'll be right back, and we'll just finish up and do a few more swatches, okay? And then we'll be finished up, and you'll have a really cool video you can come back to if you want to and just practice along with it. Or if you're going to save this, if you can save your worksheets that you're doing, your swatches, and put them in a folder or keep them in your bin. If you have a bin, you keep all your art materials. Wherever you keep your art supplies and materials, keep this couple pages. We have this one here and this one here. If you keep these with you, and then whenever you want to practice them, maybe once a month, you say, today is going to be my practice on swatches, and then you practice on them for just a couple hours. And you can use inexpensive paint if you want. You can use printer paper to do these exercises too. I'm doing them on watercolor paper. I want them to look a little better on my video, but you can use printer paper, absolutely. I use printer paper all the time to do practice brush strokes and color mixes, and also for drawing and sketching things out. So I try to save money myself on not using too much watercolor paper. I try to conserve my watercolor paper for my videos and my finished paintings. And all right, I'm going to be right back, and we'll just finish up with a few more swatches. All right, so we're getting back into our swatches here, and we're going to use actually a mop brush now. So you can use all different kinds of brushes with these exercises as well too. So if you have any brushes in your mix that you might use, you can use flat brushes and filbert brushes. You can use I'm going to use a mop brush now to do some swatches. So the more brushes you can kind of incorporate into your you know, in the beginning you might just start off with a few brushes, like a couple round brushes and a flat brush or a square brush. And then maybe you'll, after a while, you're painting with those and you're really comfortable with them. Then you grab another brush and you get the feel for a new brush. You just buy like a mop brush and you say, I'm going to get a mop brush and start working with that, doing some exercises with the mop brush. So you can use your mop brush, use the same techniques with this brush, with circles and squares and doing the Z strokes and H strokes, you know, practicing. And we'll do some parallel and vertical strokes here with our mop brush. The only thing different here is mop brushes are more or less, usually you're using a little more water and a little more paint with mop brushes, probably for larger paintings. So a lot of times you'll see artists, when they do really large paintings, they're going to tend to use mop brushes a little more, and these come in all different sizes. I have 4 or 5 or 6 from Alvaro Castanet's website. He has great mop brushes. They last forever. They really beautiful brushes. I bought these many years ago and they still look perfect. So I have like maybe 5 actually or 6 of these mop brushes, and these are great. So you can, if you're using a large paper, let's say like an 18 by 24 or 24 by 36 paper size painting, then mop brushes really help a lot because they hold a ton of water. This is squirrel hair. Squirrel hair holds a lot of water, so when you mix washes, you'd have larger palettes when you're going to work with maybe a larger painting. So you just figure it that way. If you're doing a larger painting, you're going to have maybe a palette that's going to hold more water and more liquid. It doesn't have to necessarily be larger, but the wells have to be deeper and you need to be able to mix more water. That's just a little tidbit of information, but that always helps. And so we're going to try these here. I'll just use this one for now. But they do come in all different sizes, and so we're gonna mix more water. So I'm gonna actually, like here, I'm just gonna take my water bucket and just really load in a lot of water into my palette, because we're using the mop brush, and that picks up a lot of water, and that's what we want to do here on this. So I'm gonna add quite a bit of water to my my palette, and then I can just go right in and we'll get some French ultramarine blue over here. And then we'll get some burnt sienna over here in this center one. And then I'll rinse off my brush. And then we'll do, let's see, we have blue, red. Maybe we'll go with green. Let's go with some Viridian. Now my Viridian is a little bit, actually that's working pretty good. That looks good, so that's pretty soft. My Viridian. Okay, so we're going to do that. So you can see I have a lot of water in there, and that's the key. A lot of water, a lot of, a decent amount of paint. And then we're going to do the first strokes we're going to do. Let's put a little arrow this way. We're going to do some vertical down strokes. So let's try this. So we just, and with this, let's try not resting our hand on the paper. Let's try holding our brush up high. So we're holding our brush at the end of the brush, very, very end of the brush here. So we're not going to rest our hand on the paper this time. For this mop brush, we're thinking maybe if we're working with a larger paper and a larger painting, we're going to use this mop brush, which holds a lot of water and a lot of paint, and we're going to hold the brush up high like this. So I'm not resting my hand on the paper anymore. Now I'm going up this way, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to take our brush and just let it rest on the paper, almost as it's, you see how it's almost on its own. The brush is just sitting on the paper, and then we just go on like this. There we go. That's a vertical downstroke like that, and we can get some more like this. Then you can shape it maybe in a rectangular fashion and go on up like this, and you can kind of just go around in a rectangular shape with your brush, just the tip of your brush now, and then you have a really beautiful rectangle with lots of water, lots of paint. And then if you have an issue on the bottom of your painting, take a little bit of paper towel and just take the paper towel and then just touch it to the puddle down at the bottom like that, and that's it. All right, perfect. Let's try a upstroke here, vertical upstroke. We're going to use the green and the burnt sienna like that. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start at the bottom, hold the brush up real high like this, and then just go upwards. And then we're going to make this into like an elongated rectangle like that. That looks fine. And let's do another one. Let's take purple and blue, mix it like this, and then we're going to do a thinner line. Let's do a thin line over here. Hold it again. I'm going to hold the brush up real high. I'm not going to rest my hand on the paper whatsoever. Usually when you paint like this, it's not going to be as accurate. It'll be a little less accurate, you know, until you really get the feel for it. So we're doing a downstroke now like this. Perfect. And this is all just about practicing your brushes and your brush strokes and using different brushes so you can get the feel for different brushes. You might wind up saying, oh, you know what? I like the mop brush the best. I want to use this one more when I'm doing my paintings, and that's fine. It's similar to the round brush, very similar to a round brush, except it's, again, usually it's made of squirrel hair, which holds a lot more water. It's natural hair, and it's usually a little larger than like a round brush usually. So they come in larger sizes, I should say. Okay, now we're going to, let's take our paper towel. I went a little bit overboard with mixing a little too much. I don't like to do that. Okay. And I'm going to go in and get some yellow. Cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow, maybe a little bit of cadmium red mixed in there, like that. Okay, let's do this. We did a downstroke, let's do an upstroke now. So again, the same thing, I'm going to hold my brush up high like this, my mop brush, and go in an upwards fashion. There we go. And let's try one more, even thinner yet. Let's do cobalt blue. Let's call it cobalt and French ultramarine. We already did that. Let's do green. So we're going to use sap green, olive green. Let's do that. You can see not tremendous amount of water, a lot of paint though, right? You can kind of see that's quite a bit of paint in there. This way it looks really good. You can kind of really see the color. So let's do this one. Let's again hold it up high like so. I'm kind of out of the picture frame here, but we'll just do a quick downstroke like that. And then let's do some parallel strokes this way. Let's go with some alizarin crimson and rose madder. And we'll do some parallel strokes to the right and to the left. So let's do that. Let's get some alizarin crimson, rose madder, and let's take our brush here, and then again we're holding it up high on the brush up here. Normally we mostly 90% of the time we're always painting with the brush like this with our hand on the paper, but now we're trying a mop brush and seeing how it feels holding the brush above the paper and not our hand resting on the paper. So it's a little more awkward at first, but it'll, you know, more practice, you'll get better at it, and then you just go across this way. And then we have a parallel brush stroke going to the right. Then let's get some green mixed in with that. And then let's make this one a little thicker, so we press the brush down a little more, like this. There we go. And let's do one more. We'll make this a smiley face, like that. I kind of saw two eyes and a nose there, so let's make a fun thing of this. Let's make a smiley face. There we go. And then we will do a burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue, so we'll make a good dark burnt umber, and we'll finish off with another darker wash here below, like this, to the right. And let's go one more. We'll do another one up top. This one will go right to left. And again, you can see I'm just doing some fun exercises here. And that's the tape up here, Scotch tape. Like that. And then let's do one more over here. Let's do an orange and red. Cadmium red, rose madder, cadmium red, cadmium orange. And then let's do this here. Let's just do a nice thick orangey red. Like that. So you can see, you can do this again on printer paper. You can buy large sheets of very, very thin, smooth paper. That's very inexpensive, again, to practice your brush strokes, especially if you're going to start practicing with a mop brush. Probably you can buy some large sheets, pads of paper that are, doesn't have to be watercolor paper. It could be thin, like drawing paper, just regular sketching and drawing paper, where it's thin and it's smooth, so it won't rough up your brush too much. Thin, smooth paper, and then you can do these exercises on that. I've done these exercises on newspaper, actually. So you find out whatever works for you, and that works for me too. As long as you're happy, I'm going to be happy too. I'm glad you're working with your watercolors and getting better. These exercises are absolutely going to help you. We did all kinds of fun exercises in this video, swatches, and we used different brushes, round brushes, and we used a mop brush here. We have our first couple practice swatches. We got a little more detailed into this here, a little more, accurate, and zoning in on the details. And then over here we were a little more fun. We did the circles here with our brush, twirling our brush. That's the tough one. Out of all these exercises, that's the hardest one, doing the twirling of your brush to try to get your brush spun around in a 360-degree fashion to get a circle really quick. But it'll come in handy when you're doing a watercolor painting for sure, learning those brush techniques, okay? So let's practice these. Have fun with it. There's no pressure. And I also mentioned, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's right on the right-hand side down there. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the subscribe button. And I always mention, if you subscribe, it's great because you'll just be alerted whenever I'm making new videos, so you can follow along with us and join us along, join along with us here every week. We do paintings. We do every style of watercolor painting, seascapes, landscapes, cityscapes. We do figure painting. We do, any kind of watercolor painting, you name it, we do it. And as well, we do fun exercises like this. So I'm just hoping you're going to stick here on my channel and keep practicing. You're going to get better without question. And I always try to, again, explain everything I'm doing in detail so you really kind of get it. And there's no scratching our heads and wondering what I'm doing. I'm going to tell you everything I'm doing. And so I'm hoping your paintings get better and better every week, every month, and every year. And I'll be here month after month and year after year to keep painting along with you as you get better and better and more excited about watercolor. Okay, so we'll see you on the next video.